I used to listen to good podcasts, but everything was fine. But now I listen to this podcast because I've lost my mind. My gym partner's a podcast. My gym partner's a podcast. Yeah!
Porcupine, bull shark, shit, I don't know what. Going to this school's, it's really a pain in the butt.
Gert.
Oh, damn it, I meant to say the podcast.
Doing this podcast, a pain in my ass. Hi, everybody.
Doing this.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome to
Hello.
the My Gym Partners a podcast where we willingly subject ourselves to every single episode of the hit cartoon My Gym Partner's a Monkey, which premiered in 2006. Wow, what a time!
Yeah,
Right?
2006. I watched this show when I was younger. I watched a lot of it, and I gotta say, it hasn't aged well.
It has not.
It's definitely not something I'd recommend to other people, but that's why we're here, because we're going to take you through a journey. Well, it's going to be mostly us going through the journey and you listening to us like rave and rant about how mad we've gone.
I mean, you can watch along if you want.
If you
Consider
really
this like a book
Yeah,
club.
that would be fun.
Yeah, like a
Yeah, it
little,
would be
little,
just
little
like a-
book club.
Come visit us when we want to talk about piss, ass, lots of ass.
There's a lot
Lots of ass jokes.
There's a lot of ass jokes in this. Let's start with introductions, and since this is our first episode, woo! So-
who wants to go first?
Well, I'm Lucy. I like bears, but I'm not a bear.
You're human.
I am a human.
You're
I'm the what's it called? The token human.
Yeah, you're the Adam Lion of this podcast.
I am the Adam Lion of this podcast.
You're gonna get in a lot of goofs. We're gonna be fucking stupid and not make any sense, and you're just gonna have to deal with it because that's
That's my role.
that's the show. Yeah, that's your role. That's just how that's what humans do.
Yeah, and
They're just the
what
butt
about
of
you
the
two? Tell us a little bit about you two.
I guess I'll go. Hello, I'm Gert. So I'm a sea slug. I'm a good old slug girl, and I make art, but mostly I suffer through watching My Gym Partner's a Monkey, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing for a long time now because the show is long.
Welcome to your life for the next year or so.
And hello, I'm Renee. I'm the token gator of the podcast. I live in Florida, as a gator would do. I have some hot takes to bring to the table of My Gym Partner's a Monkey, and hopefully I can also bring a scientific side to it, where I refute all the facts that Gym Partner's a Monkey tries to instill in our youth, because it is a very scientific show.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Especially the first episode. I mean, inoculation is the first word.
Yeah, so
the first episode.
so we're gonna
that's your first.
So we're gonna start with talking about the first two episodes of My Gym Partners a Monkey, which we've all watched separately. The first one being Inoculation Day. Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about Inoculation Day, which is the first episode of My Gym Partner's a Monkey. Yay! Woo!
Episode 1A.
Ooh.
First part it's one of those shows where it has two parts to pad out the time of the episode,
And it's a pretty strong opening for a series, for
But
sure.
It's pretty bold of them, honestly, to open a series like this, because it kind of feels like when we as you watch the episode that you should know who everyone is and what their quirks are, because it does not feel like a first time introduction. It does feel.
I mean, a lot of shows they have a pilot that sort of just gets into the meat of things already, so that it shows that, hey, this is what an average episode of a show will be like. But this just doesn't even introduced us to the main cat. I suppose it introduces us to like the main dynamic between Adam Lion and Jake Spider
But-
Monkey, the
but
two
the-
comic foils.
But the thing is, not really, because most of the episode, well, we'll get to it
let's
later.
not
But
get into it
Adam Lion,
ourselves.
let's just say Adam Lion isn't quite himself.
Yeah, for sure. This episode starts like Adam's going to school and he's on the bus, like just kind of chilling, and he just seems like already off the bat by episode 1, absolutely pissed off. He does not want to be here. He doesn't want to be.
Yeah,
He just
he
doesn't
even
seem like he's having a great time at all. Like he's mad. He's like annoyed with Jake. Like Jake's like just trying to brighten his morning up a little bit, but he makes a few butt jokes.
he makes a few. He like slaps his ass in like Adam's face and then like pisses on him, or at
Well,
least
no,
like
he spills apple juice on him, but like you're
Well,
led
yeah.
to believe it's like
it's a piss joke, like straight
It's
up.
a
yeah,
piss joke.
there's just a piss joke right off the bat. It's really just like
It's a strong start.
strong.
Set the tone for the rest of the series.
it's very funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
So like the first scene, Jake picking like ticks out of like Adam's head because he has ticks in his hair,
Yeah,
and
like normal people.
because he goes to a dirty animal school full of dirty zoo animals.
I wrote in my notes here. I just wrote piss in like all caps. And, like...
I wrote piss in all caps like 2 times. Like
I wrote butt, comma, pee joke.
I mean, that's what happens. So that they get to school and like it's and the thing I've noticed about this show is that how incredibly fast paced it is. It does not take a second for you to like absorb any information you're given or like laugh at any of the jokes. It's like we got to keep going. We only got 11 minutes and we have a lot of butt jokes to get through. So let's keep on moving.
That's what I've noticed too, and I don't know if it's just a thing with like cartoons that some of them they're just that fast. Like I've noticed a lot of newer cartoons as well are like really fast paced. They don't like take some time to pause.
It's like Mighty Magiswords is like that.
My gym partner's a monkey. It kind of seems like a grandfather of this like type of like maybe not a grandfather, maybe like an uncle or just like some sort of like in between like familial member to this sort of like style of cartoon because it is
The missing
incredibly
link
fast.
There's
Yeah,
there's nothing like it wasn't revolutionary at its time, and it's certainly not now. But it's.
But I think it's exemplary of it of the. I wouldn't say the worst because it's not the worst show.
No,
but
no.
it's telling.
exemplary of mediocrity of the era. I think.
For sure.
It really shows that 2006 was a shitty time to be alive. Or at least like a shitty time to be watching cartoons.
Oh yeah. So we're in the school now. They get to school, right? Of course. That's where this show mostly takes place. And the principal character, he's a little frog. And I remember he's one of the characters I remember like the most, I think, out of this whole show, because he has a funny voice, and he's a funny character. I think he's a good one.
Inoculate them.
Yeah, so he like orders the nurse, who is this gazelle, this fucking bimbo gazelle, who's just so stupid.
She has like a dart gun and she's just like I gotta give everybody in the school booster shot, and like we forgot to mention this, but like Adam Lion and Jake Spider Monkey, they're just like Jake is like I hate shots, and Adam's like, why? It's not that big of a deal, and he goes ah! like a funny ape, because that show it's mostly like jungle sounds and like
him there's a
really
liberal use of monkey noises
and like just like general like just like jungle music. I don't know how else to describe it, like very stereotypical, just like bongos going off. It's terrible.
They made good use of their stock jungle sound purchases, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that My Gym Partner's a Monkey as a show kind of feels like maybe like if clip art was a cartoon.
That's a really good way of putting it. I think that describes it pretty perfectly. It's a very like inoffensive nothing show.
It's incredibly nothing, but for some reason we found it suitable to make a maybe 100 episode podcast or whatever
No,
Anyway,
about
there's
it.
a lot to be talked about because like what happens next is that the gazelle shoots Adam with like a booster shot that's meant for Jake, and it literally
Yeah, cause
transforms Adam into like a monkey man. Like
yeah,
this show goes from
oh,
like, all right, this is kind of boring, whatever, stupid monkey jokes, and then it's like all of a sudden this little boy is like this monstrous beast who has like
and
no
what
civilized behavior at
and
all.
and that's
what
and
what
that's
doesn't make sense to me is that like I guess like as we go throughout the series it'll make more sense, but just that like Adam is like an animal for all intents and purposes. He becomes an animal in this animal school, but everybody runs in fear of him because he,
Because he's an
you
animal
know,
now.
he's becoming a stereotypical ape.
yeah, like I don't know what it was that like is it because like it's like is it because he transformed? Is that what creeps them out? Like
I mean, like Principal Pixie Frog at one point just calls him a mutant, just like
yeah,
strip the mutant.
he also calls him mutant freak. That's the specific word. I wrote it down. And also simian freak. They use the word freak a lot.
Just like you're a freak, Adam, a fucking freak.
You're a fucking freak, Adam. And like, I don't understand. I like mentioned this like earlier. I'm getting to it now. This is the first episode. It feels really weird that the first episode involves changing one of the main characters' like personality. Like you
Yeah.
change Adam Line into a
Like-
different character for that episode.
Like
we
it's
don't.
like, you know, that you feel like, you know, that's like a trope that like you would use like later on in that show. Like, you know, you gotta get to it eventually, right? But like
Yeah.
this show just like does it first episode.
Immediately. Well,
It's-
it could have been a fun role reversal of like Jake has to play the straight man now because Adam is acting like a fucking idiot. But instead, they just like it doesn't feel like much of anything because we don't really know Adam that well right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't fundamentally it does not work as a first episode because what it's doing is like for one thing, we don't really get to meet the cast.
Yeah.
Mostly we get to know the character in the show that like might have the most screen time in this episode is fucking Principal Pixie Frog. and he's like a minor character. All we get to know about Jake is, I mean, like, it's basically all we need to know about him is, like, that he loves his fucking ass.
He does
And,
love
like-
his
He's just
butt.
a little monster who
And-
likes to be a freak.
And, like, Adam, like,
Is
it's just
there.
like, oh, he's human. And then, like, the other characters, like Ingrid and Lupe, like, Lupe has one line. Ingrid is literally just a set piece.
Yeah. So it evolves like pretty dramatically. So he turns into this monkey, and it's like I already could tell. I was like, they're gonna do like a King Kong parody because like they have to. It's a cartoon from fucking 2006, and of course they're gonna do a King Kong parody. And you know, sure enough, you know, towards the end of this episode, Adam in his monkey state, he grabs Principal Pixie Frog and like starts climbing up the giraffe character.
In which she
Like
starts
the Empire
screaming.
State.
Yeah, like she starts.
He's like, get it off, get it off, get it off.
Yeah, she's freaking
Yeah,
out.
they use every fucking chance they can to like dehumanize Adam. like every single fucking opportunity, they just go like, "It, freak, mutant,"
Like, get him off! Oh, what a disgusting creature! And it's like, all right,
and like they're
okay.
not wrong, honestly, because he is a disgusting creature in this episode.
Maybe it's that like because we learn later on in the series that all of these characters going to the school or they're going like they're zoo animals. They're all zoo animals. So maybe there's like a culture there somewhat of like, he's not a zoo animal. He's just a regular animal. This is chaotic. This doesn't fit with our school system.
Well,
Yeah, he's not civilized.
they're, they're not domesticated. He's not domesticated, so like they don't get it. Which
But yeah,
which puts in just so many questions about like the lore behind this universe and how like humans and animals interact and why they're like segregated to begin with. It's odd. It's an odd choice.
There's another thing where like animal rights activists come in
Oh
while
yeah,
like Adam Lion is like on the giraffe Ingrid
that was a
and
bad
like
joke.
it was
wait,
really
I,
bad.
I wrote down the chant they did. They're called Ba because animals are amazing. I think they're called.
Was it
And then
like
they go.
animals are people too? And like, yeah, I mean,
In
we
this
know
world,
that.
in this world, yeah, for sure. For some
We
reason.
know that.
So, but like they're like shown in this like being like ridiculously like only caring about animals, and like when Adam turns back, they're like, oh, it's just some kid.
Yeah,
This
it's an odd caricature of like
And then they go, and then like afterwards, they're just like, let's go get burgers.
it's an odd scene because it's like we already have the tension of Adam is a monkey, he's got Principal Pixie Frog, and the gazelle has to shoot the antidote shot into Adam, and she's stupid, so she can't tell the difference between Jake and Adam. And she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh God, what do we do? What do we do?" And then meanwhile, you have this like this these like animal rights activists not doing anything except standing around and like being a joke in like their existence.
just chanting, "Grr and roar and woo woo woo." Animals are people too.
And that's it. That's it. That's like they have no bearing on anything that happens. They don't even like take Adam away or something, and like kind of like a joke, like they mistaked him for an animal, so like he's gone. Like there wasn't anything like that. They just kind of left, and like it was nothing. It was just nothing. It wasn't.
It was
I don't
very
think
frustrating.
I don't think you even see them like ever again in this show.
But yeah,
You guys
it'd
remember?
be one thing if they were like, it'd be one thing if they were like a reoccurring joke where they like, kept coming back and it was like funny because oh these ladies never quit, but they just, maybe I've just blocked them from my mind. Maybe they do come back. We'll see. I'm
Maybe-
excited to see them.
We'll be on this. We're on this trail together. We're gonna rediscover this show.
Come on.
Just like so, like in the latter half of the episode, they're on the tower, right? Well, the giraffe Ingrid, but
Yeah.
of course, Nurse Gazelle, having the soy nut brain, doesn't know to shoot between Jake Spider Monkey and Adam Lion, who is now an ape. And she's like deciding which one to shoot, and Principal Pixie Frog urges her to fire, and then she shoots. But then, miraculously, Jake deflects the dart with his butt, and I don't know how it doesn't inject Jake, but it hits Adam, and then he's cured with the antidote, and that's there you go. And then like the episode ends with him pointing at his butt with a big neon sign. Keeps like pushing the joke of
Oh.
booty killed the beast.
Yeah,
Well,
I was gonna
everyone's,
talk
like,
about.
already left.
Yeah,
I was gonna talk. Like, oh god.
Yeah, like,
okay,
it-
you
it-
could start, Lucy.
so like yeah they've gone this far with like the King Kong parody to the point where it's like after that happens it's like we forget about it for a little bit, but then Jake brings it all back and he's like, oh, booty killed the beast, and then he says it like 6 times and it's like we get it. Fuck.
And
God.
and like everyone else in the everyone like in the shot just like leaves as he's like still trying to do this joke.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because like the joke that they're trying to do is like nobody is like into the joke that Jake is trying to do. But the way that they do it in the show makes you uninterested in like that joke too.
You just want it to
Like
end at that point.
yeah, you just oh god. Like maybe if he just said it once, I would have been able to brush it off, but like the way that they just hammered it in, like it was supposed to be like this really big funny like look, everybody thinks that they don't like it, haha, but like it it just wasn't funny. Like
And like this joke like all throughout the episode. You think and like you're supposed to laugh at the gross out humor then. It's just the same joke.
It's just butts. There's a lot of butt
It's just-
jokes.
there's a lot they man, they really focus on Jake's ass a lot.
they
It's a feature
do.
of his character design.
Like I remembered like from a kid when I watched My Gym Partner's a Monkey. I remember that I gotta stop saying the entire name of the show. It's such a long name.
Can we like
I
come up
keep
with
saying
a
it.
shortened version of My Gym Partner's a Monkey? Because yeah, it is a
The
mouthful.
My
MG
monkey.
it the partner monkey
Partner
Monkey
monkey.
partner.
Monkey partner
monkey
show.
monkey partner show, or just like we could call it Jake's show.
Jake's show. This is Jake's world now.
I mean
But
that's
yeah,
that's what it is.
I was watching Jake's World like when I was a kid, and I remember like Jake's ass being like a pinnacle like part of the show. Like it was always mentioned, and I didn't think it would be quite off the bat as bad as I remembered, but it was worse.
Oh yeah, I mean like, you know, I was expecting the butt jokes, like, because I watched this show as a kid. Um, a lot of it is like really fuzzy, but I did watch it like quite a bit of it too. I remember it airing quite a lot, and like
Yeah,
it was on.
it just airs.
So I watched it, you know, and I remember, you know, and back then even I was like, butt jokes, whatever. I was old enough to like not really lose my mind whenever I saw it, but like I just forgot how like prominent it is. It's like almost every other shot. They just really want you to look at his butt like so badly.
It's
It's
unsettling
so
even.
Oh yeah.
it's so weird like when I think back to this show. I don't understand why I chose to watch it. Was it just because I had nothing else to do when I was
It was
younger?
just on like let me tell you, I watched this show like a lot, and I remember like a lot of this show. It was just on so much that like you had no choice but to watch it. but but
No
it's
choice but oh god,
Oh,
it's already staining us.
I like feel my brain like it might just be because I'm tired and like maybe it's just my gym partner's a monkey and it makes me feel tired. It makes me feel tired to talk about it
That's not a
because like
good sign.
it's not a good sign. Like I feel like I'm trying to dig into my brain for shit to talk about, but like it's just like disappearing because my brain doesn't want it.
Well, that was episode 1, Inoculation Day, and it premiered, I think I said already 2006, but it was February of 2006. And it was part of the Cartoon Fridays block, which I'm very familiar with. So I think that's just it was market. I mean, it was, you know, premiered to a already popular kind of block of cartoons. So no wonder it gained traction and got so many episodes.
Like when Cartoon Network actually like tried to like put their shows in like time blocks that made sense.
But let's move on to the second episode of this chunk of episodes, which is animal testing. And I have a lot to say about the sound design in this episode particularly. But let's talk about the plot of it real quick.
Mhm.
All right, so
Okay.
we open on Adam, and he's like studying words, I guess, just for fun. He's like in the
Spelling.
courtyard. Yeah, he's like spelling stuff, and he he's like the word nautical, and Jake's swings in and he spells the word perfectly, and Adam is so impressed.
But we can't talk about that before we talk about like Adam being like Well, actually, that comes afterwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, like after that, Adam is just like, "Whoa, everybody, take a look. Take a look at this. This is so impressive. Jake, do the thing." And Adam like tells Jake to spell something, and Jake is like, "DRF."
Derp.
And
DRF. Duh.
Derp.
Derf. And, and then our favorite character, the fucking star of the goddamn show, the reason any of this even happened, Slips, goes, "Wow,
Slips!
Jake, that was great."
So for those who haven't watched the show, Slips is this green snake with a like blonde, long hair, like mullet kind of hairstyle, I would say. And he's wearing like a shirt which has sleeves, but like obviously he doesn't have any arms. So he's just this fucking snake with like a little shirt on, and he talks like a surfer dude, and I love him. He is so funny to me. I just think
He's
he's a great.
very funny.
He's a great
He's a very
character.
funny
His
character.
face is
He's
like his face alone. Whenever I see it, I just instantly feel relief. And when Jake misspells this very elementary school word and slips in all his glory, just kind of like praises him for it. Like, wow, that's so cool, Jake. Good job. I'm just like,
It's
God bless
whoa,
you.
Jake.
Bless you,
Yeah, like
Slips.
he doesn't know any better. Like he's happy.
Yeah, he's just trying to
He's
help
happy
his
for his
friend out.
friend.
He doesn't want to like chastise Jake or make Jake feel bad. Slips is just there to have a good time.
But then Windsor comes in, like the
Yeah, fucking Windsor. Well, actually, it's that was completely wrong because I'm smart and oh, God,
That's the
Windsor.
gorilla character, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
he's the gorilla
Winston.
character. He's the voice of reason, I guess.
Right.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
He's
if there
just
is
like
such
the
a
voice
thing.
of logic.
It's funny. He is the voice of reason, but also he is still a gorilla. So like, he doesn't always get it right.
Right.
So Windsor comes in and he's like completely incorrect. Actually, you got that wrong.
And it's just like, yeah, Jake, you got it wrong. And then Jake starts swinging around in vines and he spells things good. And it's like, oh, okay.
So that's like the joke behind it is that like Jake can only spell things like when he's swinging around, which is odd but appropriate, I suppose.
Well, I mean, when you put like the idea that like people have like different like learning abilities, you almost feel like it's trying to say something. This show.
Almost.
You almost feel like maybe these characters have qualities that make them unique.
But it doesn't really talk about this at all. It's just a plot device to get the plot moving. They don't like talk about like the ramifications of like, oh, people learn or like not everyone is like smart in one way.
Yeah. So this kind of goes. This is when I started really noticing the fast pacedness of this show, because within like a minute of this of this episode, it goes from Adam studying, and then they're taking a test in their class, and then like 2 seconds later they're like hanging out, and they're like, oh, Adam, you shouldn't have done so well on that test. They're gonna put you in like the smart class, like the class with the like advanced learning crew or whatever.
And Jake is just like, hey, like he's freaking the fuck out. He's really
Why
scared.
are they always separating us?
Why are they? Like, I think that's the only fucking thing that he says this whole episode, except like spelling words.
Yeah, he's like so distraught about it.
Yeah, like honestly, like they should have just like flipped these episodes, and it might have it would have been fine. Like,
Well, I
I
would have
could
to
see the spelling.
I would have to disagree, only because like, okay, so let me finish the plot and then I'll talk about it, because it's about like, I guess the moral of the story of the story of this episode, where like Adam gets put into the smart class, right? And he's there, and it's like bad because they're like, oh no, they've separated Adam and Jake, but we don't. Do they even like each other?
That's the
do they even get along. Are they even friends? I wrote in my notes,
Like,
Jake and Adam friends? Question mark. 'Cause I didn't-
it's hard to tell that they're friends because if you're coming into this, like, all you fucking know is they're gym partners, which is also a thing that has not been brought up in the first episode. It's not involved at all with what's going on. They never talk about them being gym partners. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
Like,
like Renee was saying though earlier, it's like this kind of show is one of those where like they're really easy to just kind of watch one randomly because they have like no continuity or anything. It was that kind of cartoon of like there's no overarching story, so they don't need to like the first episode doesn't need to have like explanations of any kind. But at the same time, trying to watch it sequentially is very jarring for sure.
But
mhm.
like also like they could stay first episode like establish the characters in a way like like this the second episode that we're talking about here like actually does that like a little bit, not really though, but like
Just a little bit.
it at least introduces like Windsor and like Slips somewhat like
Yeah.
their roles in the show as like side characters.
No Lupe
but
though.
no Lupe, and like the first episode you just see like Lupe talking to them like say one line, and I guess like oh you assume oh she's part of the crew, and then Ingrid like you don't even know she's part of the crew, she's just
You just
there.
you
You
just
would think she's just like a random like background element,
They treat
but
her
no,
like one.
she's
yeah. They really do, except for the Ingrid specific episodes, which those are a thing.
Oh, that's right. Oh man, I'm so excited to get to this. But anyway, let's move on. So Adam's in the smart class, which like has like a bunch of nerdy characters who are all dressed the same and like very stereotypical cartoon nerd with like the glasses and the like
Pocket
pocket
protector.
protector and like
and like even down to like the same like haircut, like this like sort of like the bowl, not exactly bowl cut, like
slick down.
like slick down hair with like the one cowlick.
Yeah, it's
Eh,
they very much look just like the same character copy pasted except they're different animals.
So like Adam's in this classroom and there's like a big whale who's the teacher and he's just like
Mr.
all we
Blowhole. His
do
name is Mr. Blowhole. This is important.
Mr. Blowhole. You're right. I can't fucking skip out on their
listen,
names.
he's a good character, all right. That's all I'll say.
He's okay. Like he's as far as like characters go, I think he pisses me off the least.
Like
when
when
I
I look
look
at
at
him, I
him.
don't get angry. But the one thing
Yeah,
that
I
does
don't.
infuriate me is I was talking about sound design for this episode. Mr. Blowhole is a very prominent character in this episode. Like he's in this episode a lot because he's the teacher of the smart class, and then he's like the one who's leading the spelling bee. And every time Mr. Blowhole is like on screen, they play these like distant sounding whale noises, like like over and over again, and it's just there, and there's no like wacky things are happening because it's like whoa Jake he's swinging around there, it's a tense spelling beat, but it's so terrible because I just hear
It kind
these
of
whale
relaxes
noises.
me.
Well, I'm
I
glad
don't know. When I listen,
I'm glad
when
I
I
did that
listen
for
to
you.
Like
when I
like I
listen
don't.
to Mr. Blowhole, I just kind of think like, finally, like I get to hear whale noises, and I don't have to listen to like Jake Spider Monkey just shitting himself with like fucking dialogue, just fucking shitting his words all over the goddamn place,
My thoughts exactly.
you're making me go crazy.
Oh, you're making me so crazy.
You're making me crazy.
But it's Mr. Blowhole is fine. Character wise, I like his voice. He's like a calming, like I'm the whale teacher voice, and he's a cool character. I hate these nerds though, but I'm really glad
Oh.
that like their portrayal of nerds as like asshole elitists is very accurate. I'm like very happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean they ain't gamers, but like close enough,
They
right?
might as well be.
They might as well.
They
be
might as well
gamers.
be gamers. There needs to be an episode with these characters. Well, I feel like this is we're kind of like not letting the audience in on like each individual one. So I'm going to go down the list really quick. Your main one is a dolphin, and he sounds like a fucking prick. There's this other one who's like a little pig. He's just like, and that's
He's like
basically
the
it.
little. He's the
He's like,
pathetic one of the group.
yeah, he's the pathetic one who's like sweaty, and he's like, he like breathes like a creep.
Yeah, he's like the outcast of even the nerds. He's like just desperately trying to fit in.
And then we have like a squid, right? And there's a squid inside like a tube. We don't really know much about him
Squid boy?
except he's hideous.
He is hideous.
He's absolutely hideous. And there's like a little joke that they do sometimes where he comes out of his like little like tube of water. And yeah, water. That's it. Water. Thanks. Wow.
It was water the whole time.
It was on the tip of my tongue, but it was water. But yeah, like water.
Right. And so you know, he's in this class of smarties and he's like, "Oh man, I kind of hate this actually. Like this sucks. I don't want to be in here." There's like
this is so much worse than Jake.
Yeah, he's like, "I'd rather be in my dumb idiot class with my dumb idiot like classmates, I guess." And
we'll never call them friends.
He'll never call them friends. Let's be honest. There's like a lunchroom scene, and when they cut to the lunchroom, I was like hit with this kind of wave of like, the most I remember from this show is like scenes from the lunchroom. Like for some reason, the lunchroom like setting is very familiar to me, and like,
it's a liminal space.
yeah, and I was just like, oh, I've been here before.
I live it. I think like there's like maybe a lot of me, like a lot of my time as a kid was spent in that lunchroom.
And it was just very like, oh yeah, this place, I know this place. And so they're hatching a plan because Adam wants to go back to his old class, so he's like, you know what, I'll just pretend to be dumb so that they'll kick me out, right?
You say they're hatching a plan, but like what you really mean is like Jake is having a panic attack about nothing, and everyone else is just fucking like
and they're just
nothing.
there.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like
it's mostly just Adam. Oh, that reminds me of the one genuine laugh I had from this episode was Adam is talking about his plan. He's like, I'll just pretend to be dumb so that they'll like kick me out. It's a perfect plan. What do you guys think? And it pans to like Slips, Windsor, and they're like sitting there, and you just hear like a duh. It like genuinely got me really bad. I was like actually laughing at the show. Wow, imagine that.
It was good because it was just like that's how I feel watching the show. Just duh.
It was a very good joke. I it was probably one of the better ones, and I was just like, wow, okay. I like, so it impressed me so much I wrote it down, so I wanted to remember that.
So I think I wrote it down too.
Yeah, I wrote it down here. I just have in quotations, duh.
Hey y'all, I have a quote here that's very relevant to this episode.
Okay.
I wrote down Jake literally doesn't know anything.
I don't know how he functions in society.
Moving on.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. So Adam, I'll explain this bit.
Okay.
Adam is in the classroom, and Mr. Blowhole calls him up to spell a word. And Adam's like, oh, I'm gonna hatch my little plan now. I'm gonna write down the word bad. So he writes the word down, not good, and everyone in the classroom, all these like elitist like nerds are just like, ha, you fucking idiot, you should be named Adam. Adam.
Get
and
it?
Then, and then the pig with like so little and like just nobody's happy to hear him, but he goes, you should change his last name to Adam Ignoramus. And it's just like, holy shit. Oh, and like it's supposed to be awkward, and it
No,
is awkward.
no,
but
he
it's
said
awkward.
like the dolphin says he should change his last name to Ignoramus, but
Oh,
then
Adam
like
is
the pig
stupid.
says, yeah, he should be called Ad Stupid.
Yeah, but it's funny because like I got those two jokes mixed up. So did they really?
Did they really
It doesn't
work?
feel like it. Did it really work? Because it just kind of felt like maybe that was the point. Maybe like it was supposed to be like the nerds are hating on him and they're just as bad. Like they don't even like feel like their jokes aren't even as good, aren't better. But
maybe, but
I don't.
Adam feels very very insecure, and he's like, you know what,
Mm,
like screw this plan. I want to be seen as smart, so he goes back up to the board and he like writes the word correctly, and they're like so impressed with him, and they're like, wow, you're so cool, and so they immediately
you
like,
spelt a word.
yeah, you spelled the word, and the word was appropriate.
Yeah, well, it's middle school, but like, I mean, like, this feels like that's an elementary school word you would know.
Perhaps. I will say I was impressed with Adam's ability to spell it appropriate.
Yeah, I was impressed with Adam's ability to spell appropriate.
um so Adam now starts his transformation. He transforms again. They really just don't want Adam to be Adam, I guess. He transforms into a
Maybe
nerd.
that's all he is. Maybe he's just a fucking like. Maybe like once we watch more episodes, we'll find that Adam doesn't really have a character because they keep trying to change him.
And that's like the main conflict, is that he just can't find his identity. Ooh, now
Yeah.
that's some interesting stuff.
No, that's a spicy video essay waiting to be made.
Welcome to my
Mhm.
2-hour long YouTube rant series where I talk about how important Adam Lyon's character arc is in the show My Gym Partner's a Monkey. I'm sorry, in the show Jake's World.
Jake's World.
So yeah, he turns into a nerd, and like everyone is like so well, mostly Jake is just still freaking out. Like he just has not calmed down and will not calm down, and he's like, oh no, they changed you to a nerd. And then there's this joke where like where like the nerds are like, let's go play D&D, and I was like, oh yeah, this was before D&D was like cool.
And then,
Yeah,
and
oh
then
my
Adam
God,
puts on his little wizard hat and he's like, "Yeah, guys."
Let's
It's
go.
fucked up, isn't it? It's fucked up because like everybody and their mother loves D&D now, but like it was a thing back then to just be like, oh, D&D, or what are you, a fucking nerd? Like,
Yeah, it was like super like that. It's like, wow, like D&D was seen as like the nerdiest you could go. Like it's one thing to like video games or like comic books, but oh my gosh, if you play D&D, whew,
whew,
I'm so
wow,
glad that
using
nerds
your
aren't oppressed
imagination.
anymore.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I was getting into. Like Adam, it really showed like he is in a sense appropriating nerds.
Shut
Like
up.
Okay.
Shut up. So
Cut that out of the podcast.
I'm not going to. It's going in. So so the crew decides that they need to save Adam, and they're going to do it by entering the spelling bee against him and the nerds, and so that they can win against him. And there's a very 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 funny joke where the spelling bee starts, and a sloth is at the mic, and he's just going so slow, and
Oh,
Mr.
God, it
Blowhole
was
is like,
so funny.
oh man, can you believe this guy?
Mr. Blowhole was just like, you sure are slow. and then he just cuts him off, and they lose.
Yeah, so
Why was it named Team Sloth if he was the weakest link of the fucking like?
You know, what's also confusing to me about this spelling bee is like they have a whole team, but like each team only like one player is really like the speller. Yeah, so like the team sloth goes, but like only the sloth like spells. But like as soon as like he like loses, the whole team is just gone. It's like
Yeah.
they're just there for like emotional support or something.
Well, that continues because then it comes a a spelling bee between Adam, and his nerd team, and Jake and like Slips and Windsor and Ingrid, and it's just like the only people who spell is Adam and Jake. So we have this really hellish sequence where like you can hear the fucking whale noises, and like it's
Oh.
like both the characters are like spelling, and like it cuts to Jake swinging around madly, and it's just like it's supposed to be like a passage of time of like the spelling bee's been
Wait.
going on for a while.
I have.
Before that, like Jake's like starts like it's him going up to the mic and he's like there's this really funny bit. I think it's where like he's like delaying like actually spelling the word, and he's like country of origin please, and like
Yeah.
just like going on about that, and then like Mr. Blowhole is just like ludicrous, and he's just like in pain as he's like
I'm
having
sure.
to describe it in like stall, and then like eventually it's just like the word again is ludicrous, and then Jake just goes, ha, it sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly, that
that's a
little
funny
bit
joke.
kind of got me. Just like, yep, it sure is. The word is ludicrous.
And then that's when he starts like swinging and spelling really good, and so they're like, then Adam like montage of like spelling words correctly, showing the passage of time.
I described this montage, this like flash of images and light on the screen as a fever dream, and I think that's appropriate
Well,
because it was.
it was like
The,
so just like the most incoherent montage ever. I was like, what the hell is going on right now?
it was chaotic because Jake was just swinging around and Adam looked like a fucking loser. Because we forgot to mention that once Adam got indoctrinated into the nerd core or whatever it was, like, oh, what was it that they called them?
The
The
spiffy.
They had a name.
spiffies. They're called the
Spiffies.
spiffies.
Yeah, when Adam became a spiffy, he literally like looked like them. He started wearing the same shit, so he wore like shitty glasses and a pocket protector and like just like a little outfit, and he looked awful, even more so than he normally does, which is still awful.
And so like after a while, like Adam comes to a realization that he doesn't belong with the nerds. He just like takes a look at all the nerds, and then like how it looks at how creepy they are, and then looks at himself and he's like, no. But like
He sees the pig when like going
spell it. Spell it.
spell it.
But
Oh.
like honestly, like all throughout this, I was just thinking like maybe he would have been happier with the nerds, because like honestly, like earlier in the episode, he was like gonna insult like his friends, being like, I'll just act dumb like you, like I'll just act dumb, right?
Yeah, it like there's a moment where even like even though the nerds were like kind of assholes to him, there's like a moment where like the dolphin goes up to him and he's like, you know what, I'm sorry, I was wrong about you, and I'm sorry I made like fun of you. And I bet like
He did say,
I
he
bet,
did say though, I'm
yeah.
only wrong. Like I'm never wrong, but I'm
Yeah.
wrong about this. So like, I guess take that as you will, if that's a compliment or.
I mean, it's more of a compliment than I assure you Jake has ever said to Adam, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just like, Adam's like kind of an elitist nerd, really. So maybe this is where he'd belong. I don't know if it'd be good for his development, but I don't know if being with Jake and his crew is good for his development and his psyche
I don't.
either.
I gotta be honest. Maybe not being a human at an animal school isn't good for his development. I feel like the show is trying to get that message clear across that maybe being at an animal school isn't quite for Adam Lyon. Maybe that's not his cup of tea.
Well, like every episode has him in some sort of distress and just like something he would never have to deal like okay, he'd probably have to deal with like like smart elites at like a normal school. Fair enough. But I don't think he'd have to be worried about being like fucking shot.
Transforming into an ape.
Yeah, like a human school.
Being shot with a fucking like
Blow.
booster shot that turns you into a mutant freak.
So he doesn't want to
But
be so moving on. He doesn't want to be a nerd anymore. He like fluffs up his hair away from like the, spiffiness of it, and he's like, I want to be friends with you again, Jake, and I want to be in your class. And then like the episode ends with like Jake being like, oh well, because I did so good in the spelling bee, like they're inviting me to the smart class. And then it just ends with Jake sitting in the smart class being laughed at, and then the screen goes dark, and that's the end of the episode.
Wait,
and that's it.
What fucks me up though is like, maybe he's like, maybe it won't be so bad. But like, he was literally having a panic attack earlier in the episode about them being separate.
So it's like you think it would make more sense for Jake to be like, no, but like instead he's just like, fuck it. At least Adam's back in the stupid class.
Yeah, like there's like you would think the motivation for this episode was like, Jake and Adam are friends. They're now in separate classes. We need to get them back together. They both want to be back together, really. But like by the end of the episode, Jake is like over his little like panic attack or whatever he was going through. And he's like
clear-headed.
Yeah, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, sure. We'll be separated. It's like nothing. It's like nothing happened. It's like absolutely.
I guess it's like, a Looney Tunes gag ending where it's like, oh, he's in a different situation. How will we get out of this one? We don't know. But
we literally don't. You're never. The next episode is going to be like Adam, like I don't know, turning into a fish or something.
Well, so that was the first 2 episodes of My Gym Partner's a Monkey. Thoughts in general?
So like, I just thought of one particular moment from the first episode, or maybe it was the second one. I'm not fucking sure. They're literally bleeding together. But there was a part where Jake was like freaking the fuck out, and then he was making like like fucking like ape noises, right? And then Adam like touches his butt, like he pokes him on the ass, and he goes and he's like, oh. I just thought that was really funny. Like, it was so goddamn funny because, like, it was funny.
Oh, because monkey noises, right?
Because monkey noises.
Yeah, the amount of, like, jungle stock sounds they use in this show is incredible. It's very jarring a lot of the times where, like, it's like, I remember in the first episode, they're like trying to find Adam as he's like, this monster monkey man, and they're like, we gotta find him to give him this booster shot. He's like running around the school amok, and they're like this very stealthy, like, trying to hide from him and trying to shoot him with the booster shot, and it's like really tense. And then the gazelle like misses her shot and shoots the mirror instead of Adam because she's dumb, haha, and like. Then there's this kind of like, wacky like ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba kind of song that's like playing, and then all of a sudden it just like hard cuts to some like jungle beats like happening at the same time. And it's like, oh, give me a break for Jesus Christ! I can't catch like a moment in this show.
The music in this show, I forgot how good it was. Like in the sense of how
well, it's the same kind of like stock production music as like SpongeBob and stuff.
Yeah,
and, like,
I was gonna say like there's a lot of tomfoolery in this show.
Well, I will say I'm really looking forward to spending more time with Slips, particularly. He's a great character. I just think he's really going to have an interesting arc throughout the series. Really grow as a character. Let's finish this off. We've talked about the episodes, talked about our general feelings. So we'll be back next week with 2 more episodes. What are those episodes? Let me look at the stupid Google Docs. Not stupid, useful Google Docs. All right. We'll be back next week with Lion of Scrimmage and Bad News Bear, which I'm excited because it has the word bear in the title.
I'm sure it's a really good episode.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure. Um, we'll be back next week. Any final thoughts?
Um,
Mr. Blowhole is hot.
Yeah. All right.
Mr. Rhino makes me angry.
We haven't gotten to him yet.
We
Hold
haven't
on.
even we haven't seen him. We didn't mention him through the episode, but y'all just look up a picture of Mr. Rhino and tell me that he doesn't like kind of like I don't know.
Piss you
Just
off.
gets under my skin. He
We'll,
pisses
we'll,
me
we'll
off.
talk about him more. I think he's in the next episode,
Oh boy.
actually.
Oh boy. Well, until next week, I'm Lucy,
I'm Gert,
I'm Renee.
and
this has been My Gym Partners, a podcast. Yay! Bye.